huge trade in the NFL. And like I said, Carson Wentz, a big name, not a big game quarterback at this moment in time, but still a big name. And he was traded from the Indianapolis Colts for the second straight year. Remember, the Colts traded for him a year ago. And now, after one season, they have parted ways with Carson Wentz, trading him to the Washington Commanders, formerly known as the Washington Football Team, for a third round picks in 2022 and 2023. And the 2023 pick could become a second round pick if Wentz plays 70% of Washington's snaps. They also swapped second round picks this year, Rob. So the Colts will get Washington's and vice versa. And so that moves the Colts up from number 47 to number 42. And that's it. That's the deal. What are your thoughts?
I don't know what the Indianapolis Colts are doing. I guess my question would be, so had they made the playoffs, would this still have happened? I know they needed to win one of their final two games. They didn't win either game. It was a terrible loss to Jacksonville. And I just wonder, is that a knee-jerk reaction, or was it just easier to blame the quarterback? This is 5 quarterbacks in 5 years. I don't think you're going to win playing that game. Got to be very careful. And I'm not saying that Carson Wentz played great, or, I always say if you're not a part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. But I think there was a lot of stuff. I don't think the defense showed up in those two games. The running game wasn't as great as it had been. A lot of things went wrong that cost them a chance at the playoffs. In the middle of the season, they looked like a really tough team to beat because they could run the ball with Taylor. And Wentz was playing good enough. Not great, but good enough. And their defense was pretty good too until those last couple of games when they really needed. Jacksonville scored 26 points on them, got on them early, Chris, and they could never come back. So Frank Reich has now had 5 starting quarterbacks in his mini season, including a new week 1 starter in 6 straight years. So they just keep funneling people in, and eventually they got to figure out on somebody. So I think
none of them have really been.
No. Yeah. But I'm just saying the way that things worked out, I don't think they make this trade if they had made the playoffs and they won one of those 2 final games. But if I'm Carson Wentz, I look at it this way. You didn't get released. Somebody thought you still had some value for a trade. You go to a franchise that needs a starting quarterback, that's welcoming a starting quarterback, and you get one more chance. Most people don't get this many chances, Chris, to be a starting quarterback in this short of a period of time for 3 different organizations. This is uncharted territory, because most of the time when somebody gets rid of you once or twice, you're kind of done, and you go and you might be a backup, or you're an also-ran, and people don't look at you that way. But he has a real shot to go to Washington and reestablish his career. But it's going to take a lot for him. He's got to get all the naysayers and play some better football ahead, but he does have another opportunity. So if I'm Carson Wentz, I got to be thankful. And if I'm the Colts, I guess you got to figure out, can they finally get a quarterback to solidify that position, because you can't keep shuttling people in and out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, had they made the playoffs, maybe things would be different. But that loss to Jacksonville, I don't think it was a knee-jerk reaction just to that loss. But certainly Wentz's play in that game, his poor play, really the last 2 games of the season. Remember when they got to that point, they only needed 1 win in those 2 games. They lost to Las Vegas. Vegas was a good team. They obviously made the playoffs. And then they lost to Jacksonville. That was the killer, Rob, 26-11. It wasn't even that close. And Wentz didn't play well. But what is so telling to me And what is hard for me to overlook when I look at Carson Wentz and what his future could hold is that Frank Reich gave up on him. Frank Reich was one of his biggest supporters in the league. Frank Reich was the guy that was there with him in Philadelphia, Rob, as offensive coordinator when he had that one, season when he got injured after 13 games, but looked like he was about to win an MVP award and played great football. That's why, people thought this guy was a future star. And that guy gave up on him. We talked about it, Rob. I thought going to Indianapolis, where they had a great running back in Jonathan Taylor, they had a strong defense, they had not only a good coach, but a coach that believed in Wentz. I thought that was the best case scenario for him. And when that guy, who is known to be really good with quarterbacks, when he gives up on you, that speaks volumes to me. That speaks volumes to me.
I don't see it the same way from the standpoint that he could have released him. Like there's no value for him. I would buy that if you told me.
Why not get something for him?
No, but
if
I'm
just
saying.
Him?
But if I'm Washington, I say I'm not trading. If you don't want him, I'll let you release him, and then I'll pick him up for nothing. I don't have to trade for him if he has no value. Is what I'm saying. You don't have to trade.
Yeah, but why would Indianapolis release him and still be on the hook for some money when you can trade him and get a few picks?
But if they don't want him,
off of his money.
No, but if they don't want him, what I'm saying is
they clearly don't want him.
Well, but if they don't want him, I'll wait. What are you going to do? Hold on to him if you don't want the guy? You'll eventually have to eat the money and release him.
I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you. I think you're saying somebody wanted him, which is true. Washington wants him. Great. But Indianapolis clearly didn't want him.
Right, but he still has value in the league. He still has value in the league. Okay, fine. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, fine. I wasn't even making that point. I was making the point of a coach who has strong belief in him, a coach who has worked well with quarterbacks, gave up on him after 1 year, didn't think he was good enough. And so that, to me, just raises red flags. I mean, his play, like you said, it was okay. He did stop turning the ball over as much, only had 7 interceptions.
He had 27 touchdowns and 7 picks, right.
But 6 of those picks in the second half, never had a game-winning drive all year. And the talk, these are reports, is that his leadership is poor. And you heard, Rob, similar stuff in Philadelphia. And so that stuff is still following him. It's just reports. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know. But this is what's being reported. And what's also being reported is the Colts weren't bringing him back, period. To your point, if they couldn't have got a trade, it looks like they would have just released him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But they were able to. If I'm Washington, if I believe that they're going to do that, I would have just waited. I wouldn't have given them anything.
Well, they may not have known.
No, or maybe they were afraid somebody else might take him and they really wanted him. That's why I'm saying if you're Carson Wentz, you feel better that somebody actually wants you and you're not being picked up off the scrap heap. For somebody to give up anything means that they have some value in you. So going to Washington, you at least have that feeling that somebody is willing to give you another shot. And that's all I'm saying. It's different between being released, nobody wants you, and somebody saying, okay, it didn't work out in Indianapolis, we'll take you. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, look, keeping it real, he's got a shot. He's got a shot in Washington. That's a team. I think their defense will turn around, Rob. It was poor last year. Surprisingly mediocre.
Yeah, it wasn't where it was because it was damn good a couple years ago.
Right, but they got young players that I would think can turn it around. He should be better. I think he's better than Taylor Heineke. I mean, Washington, they're giving him a chance. And I agree with you that all is not lost. He does have a shot. But like I said, for Indianapolis and Frank Reich to give up on him after one season, to me just says man, because Reich believed in him. And they gave up a first and a third round pick, Rob, to get him. And so they were just ready to cut their losses. So we'll see. This is it, though. He better make it work in Washington, or he probably is looking at most likely being a backup for the rest of his career if he doesn't make it happen in Washington. He's got 1 year left on that deal. And so he's got a year to make it happen. They can release him after this season and not have a cap hit. So it's essentially 1 year left. But Carson Wentz, wow, how the mighty have fallen, Rob. And this is a guy, like I said, a few years ago, looked like he was going to be an MVP. And now he's on his third team in 3 years.